Since the very beginning of the franchise, the Pokemon games have released in pairs, and with this comes version exclusives. As a way to kind of push the trading aspect of the series, each version in a pair has its own group of exclusive Pokemon that the other game can't get without trading. This decision leads to Pokemon becoming such a social event. If you want to complete your Pokédex, you have to trade with other players. And thus, one of the most interesting and at times annoying features in the franchise is born. As the series progresses, the differences start to include more than just the random Pokemon you can find in the wild. Generation 3 introduces exclusive legendary Pokemon, where the legendary on the box is now exclusive to that game. And that's not all for the legendaries, as they also introduce Latias and Latios, which while they are normally version exclusives, through the Eon ticket you're allowed to go to Southern Island to catch the other one, making it kind of a version exclusive event as well. And the legendaries aren't the only ones getting in on the fun here, as the mythical Deoxys has 4 different forms, and the form Deoxys has in the 3rd generation is dependent on what game it is in. In Fire Red, it's attack form, Leaf Green gets defense form, Emerald grants speed form, and the rest of the Gen 3 games gives it normal form. Generation 4 ushered in version exclusive fossils, Diamond getting the Skull fossil while Pearl got the Shield fossil. Heart Gold and Soul Silver continues this trend, where Heart Gold got the Helix and Claw fossils while Soul Silver got the Dome and Root fossils. While these fossils are obtained in specific games, they are able to be traded between games as held items on Pokemon, meaning they can be revived in either of the games. Heart Gold and Soul Silver also have Latias and Latios as exclusives again, and once again has an event where you can catch the other. The 5th generation is where the version exclusives concept really gets kicked into overdrive. It's no longer just related to the Pokemon, but also now even on the map. The biggest examples is Black City and White Forest. These locations are whole exclusive locations between the two games, and while this late game area doesn't have a whole lot to do in the originals, in the sequels there are battle facilities, the Black Tower and the White Tree Hollow in the obvious locations. Completing these facilities even grant you a shiny Gible for Black Tower and a shiny Dratini for the White Tree Hollow. While this is the most drastic example, there are also some other examples of just aesthetics, such as Opelucid City having a futuristic theme in black, while it's a lot more rustic in white. Mistralton City features greenhouses in black while it just has open fields in white. The sequels carry forward with these changes, while also making a few more of their own, such as the cave connecting Lentimus Town and Undella Town being filled with water in black too, while it's filled with magma in white too. Much like with the differences in Opelucid City, the sequels feature the results of the construction on Route 4, Black 2 being a built-up new area, whereas White 2 has ruins that have been dug up to be preserved. Some areas also have some layout changes, like the Plasma Frigate and Victory Road. Now, that's a lot of map changes, but it's still not all for the version exclusives in these games, for Black 2 and White 2 have the key system, which allows you to make changes to your game. Obtained through different requirements, such as beating the champion or catching a specific legendary Pokemon. In Black 2, there's the Challenge Key, which allows for Challenge Mode, the Iron Key, which allows for catching Registeel, and the Tower Key, which allows for you to be in Black City. On the other hand, White 2 has the Easy Key that gives Easy Mode, the Ice Key which grants the ability to catch Regice, and the Force Key which gives you access to the White Forest. These keys, while allowing you to make alterations to your own game, can be sent to other games to give you access to more content, like a modernized take on needing to trade Pokemon to complete the Pokédex. And yet this still isn't all for these games, as Black and White 1 have Thundurus and Tornadus, exclusives much like Latios and Latias. However, if you catch both and trade them both to a single game, you get access to catch the final force of nature, Landorus. The mythical Genesect also gets to get in on the fun, where if you take it to the P2 laboratory, you can get drives that change the type of Genesect's signature move, Technoblast. In Black and Black 2, you get given the Burn and Shock drives, while White and White 2 will net you the Douse and Chill drives. Oh, and how can I forget that in Black and White 1, the final gym leader is different. You face Drayden in Black and Iris in White. Their teams are mostly the same, and they're both Dragon Masters, but hey, it's still cool. Generation 5 has a whole lot of version differences, as you can probably tell. I haven't even mentioned them all, like how the sequels have differently colored UIs to match the version, or how Black favors rotation battles while White favors triple battles. This generation, these 2 pairs of games really showcase the strength of version differences. They don't have to be locked to just the Pokemon you can encounter. They can change so much without fully changing the game. These games give reason to play the opposite version as opposed to just trading a friend for the Pokemon you need. Later games have cool version differences in their own rights, but nothing as complete of a package that Gen 5 gives. So many meaningful changes to even just little details that help immerse you into the specific version you play. Moving on from the Master Class, we come to Gen 6. The differences really die down here for a bit, but they do introduce a new difference with the newly added Mega Evolutions. Megas, well, they require a Mega Stone to Mega Evolve, and you have to find the stones yourself. Some are sold, some are around the region, and some are version exclusive. While there's only a handful of regular stones that are version exclusive, the real stars are the X and Y stones. Charizard, the totally not Game Freak's favorite, and Mewtwo, each have 2 Megas. And so how do they handle this? Why, you have the Charizardite X and the Charizardite Y, with the same setup for Mewtwo. Unsurprisingly, the X stones are exclusive to X, and the Y stones are exclusive to Y. These games continue to have the familiar Pokemon differences in the fossil situation, but I think that's mostly it for these games. As if they realized they were slacking a little with the differences in Gen 6, they pick it back up in Gen 7. In Sun and Moon, as well as Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, there is probably the most obvious difference in any of these games, and that is that while the Sun games are completely normal, the Moon games have their clocks offset by 12 hours, so that while it is daytime according to your system clock, it is nighttime in the game so that the Moon theming comes through. There's more than just that though. The first totem Pokemon you encounter differs per version, being a Gumshoe in the Sun games and an Alolan Raticate in the Moon games. Some clothing is also exclusive, with Sun games getting warmer colors while the Moon games get more colder colors. Sun allows you to fight Kawaii, while in Moon you can fight Mallow. Even the trainers you can scout in the battle tree can be different, with the likes of Plumeria, Sinnoh, and Kawaii being in the Sun games, and Guzma, Dexio, and Mallow in the Moon games. Another major difference in these games is actually evolution differences. In the Sun games, Rockruff will only evolve into Midday Lycanroc, while the Moon games get only the Midnight form from evolution. And it's not just Rockruff, for the Cosmog line's final evolution is dependent on what game you're playing. Solgaleo in the Sun games and Lunala in the Moon games. While the differences between the two pairs of games are mostly the same, the Ultra games have the Ultra Recon Squad. So Ultra Sun features Dusel and Zossie, while Ultra Moon has Fico and Solaria as the main pair you interact with. Oh, and the Ultra games also allow you to receive the totem-sized Pokemon for your own collection. While Mimikyu is available in both, the rest are all version exclusives. Well, that should be all the big differences in the Alola games, but Gen 7 doesn't end there, for we come to the Let's Go games. There's not a whole lot of difference between these games, most of them come down to your partner Pokemon. Your partner Pokemon is either Pikachu or Eevee, depending on the game you picked. Each of these Pokemon have their own selection of exclusive moves that are only learnable by the partner Pokemon, and you can get outfits based on your partner's evolutions. So while Pikachu gets you a Raichu-inspired outfit, Eevee lets you get a fit inspired by each of the 8 evolutions. A bit of an unfair landslide in my opinion, but what are you going to do? Besides that, there's a trade for Alolan Sandshrew and Pikachu, while Eevee has a trade for Alolan Vulpix, and besides that, I think it's pretty much just the standard Pokemon differences. Now we reach Generation 8, starting off with Sword and Shield. These games have a first for the series, with version different gym leaders that are actually completely different. In Sword, Gym Leader 4 is Bee and Gym Leader 6 is Melanie, while in Shield, Gym Leader 4 is Alistair and Gym Leader 6 is Gordy. Their gym puzzles stay the exact same, and they only get like reskins based on their respective types, but they are full-on different unique gym leaders with their own teams and their own type specialties, and I think that's really neat. These games also have a curry cooking mechanic that's way bigger than it needs to be. Having a curry dex of 151 different recipes, and if you want to finish that bad boy, you better get trading, as there are some version exclusive ingredients. Sword gets Bob's Food Tin, while Shield gets Box Food Tin. On a semi-similar note, the Apple and Evolution items are also version exclusives, the Tart Apple in Sword, and the Sweet Apple in Shield. Fossil exclusivity comes back kind of, for these games feature 4 fossil pieces that get mixed and matched to create different Pokemon monstrosities, and while all 4 pieces are obtainable in each game, the fossilized bird and the fossilized dino are way more common in Sword, while Shield has the fossilized fish and the fossilized drake as the more common ones. There's also some raids exclusive to each version, like G-Max Flapple exclusive to Sword and G-Max Appleton exclusive to Shield, but those can be done online and joined by either version. The Dynamax Adventures also has some exclusive legendaries, but much like the standard raids, can be joined by either game, and if you wish, you can save the path of a legendary exclusive to the opposite version, allowing for you to play it offline. Our next Gen 8 stop is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I think their only difference is the Pokemon. They're pretty faithful to the originals. Though I guess I can share the fact that Kecleon is exclusive to Brilliant Diamond, despite there being a Poketch app that requires you to show a Kecleon to receive it. Brilliant Diamond is the only game on the Switch to have Kecleon catchable, so unless you bring one up from the 3DS, you have to either get Brilliant Diamond or trade for one, which I think is a bit of a weird decision. Next up, we have Legends Arceus. Wait, no, that one is only one game, so there's no version differences. Feels weird doing this generation by generation breakdown structure and not include it. Yeah. I would like more single game releases like this, but without the dual release, I wouldn't be making this video, so I guess we just move on. Alright, we now reach our current final stop on this journey, Generation 9's Scarlet and Violet. Probably could argue for these games having the most notable change over Sun and Moon, and that is due to your ride Pokemon being either Koraidon in Scarlet or Miraidon in Violet. Not even just reskins either. They have different animations for at least the running. These fellows are with you your entire journey and how you'll be getting around most of the time. The games also have different focuses on a foreign time period, Scarlet focusing on the past and Violet focusing on the future. And this leads to a lot of the differences. Scarlet's Professor Sada dresses like a cave person, and led to Paradox Pokemon from the past to swarm Area Zero, as well as the Great Tusk Titan. While Violet, on the other hand, has Professor Turo, who dresses quite futuristically, leads the swarms of future Paradox Pokemon, and the Iron Treads Titan. Both of these professors are Arven's parents, and what parents he's looking for or talking about is dependent on what version you're playing. There's also the difference in schools. Scarlet has the Naranja Academy, which has the logo of an orange, and has all the school uniforms, including yours, to be orange-themed, while Violet has the Yuva Academy, with its logo being grapes and having violet-colored clothing. Alright, with that, I don't think there's a whole lot left to talk about for these games. Heck, our next release is next year, with another Legends game, so it'll be a while before we see even more version differences. I guess there's some spin-off games I could have talked about, namely the first few Mystery Dungeon entries, but I still need to actually play through those games fully before I can talk about them properly. There's a lot of differences they have made to try and justify their continued use of the dual release format. I didn't even delve into the third versions, as that's just a whole other can of beans that I'll get to at a later date. The first few generations didn't have a whole lot going for it for differences, besides just the Pokemon. And that worked for the era of Pokemon before online play was introduced. Needing to go out of your way to find someone who could help you get what you needed really pushed the social aspect of this franchise, and it starts to feel lost at times as the series progresses. Once Wi-Fi and the GTS were introduced to the series, being able to trade strangers for what you need served a swift blow to that. So it's no real coincidence that the generation after we see them added, that we start seeing more and more differences, giving new reasons to buy or interact with the other version. Gen 5 is hands down the undisputed king of this. The key system alone is an insane idea that got left in the dust when it could have been such a great mainstay feature to keep up with the dual release concept, to stop it from feeling less and less necessary with each new release. The differences in Sword and Shield as well as Scarlet and Violet are neat. The whole idea of exclusive characters in such important roles is very interesting, but I think it's a kinda too little too late situation. Legends Arceus proved a single release can work, even coming up with ways to achieve trade evolutions on your own. It was nice to not have to worry about accidentally picking the version with the worst exclusives, or seeing an old favorite locked away from you. I personally find Violet to feel like an afterthought. Like, I think the story beats work really nice with the past theme, but then they have Violet with the future to just justify a second version. It's an outdated gimmick, and I genuinely would love to see it left in the past if we can't return to the highs we had in Gen 5. Add in that not only are Switch games nearly double what the titles on the 3DS were, but there's version-specific DLC that costs half the price of a new Switch game. Buying both games in a pair with the DLC costs 3 times that it did on the 3DS, and while not everyone goes crazy with buying both games and all the DLCs, it's really annoying for those that do. I just think it might be time to say goodbye to this long-honored tradition that only Pokemon has managed to get away with for so long. Alrighty, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Even still, there's some stuff that I didn't even mention. Some games have some minute or very irrelevant changes that I don't really think warrant talking about, at least not for this video. Alright, if you made it this far into the video, I would like to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing, as those truly do help out the channel. Also, I'd love to hear from you all in the comments down below, even if it's just what your favorite version difference is. If you want to further support the channel, consider becoming a member. Doing so grants you perks such as having your name appear on screen right about now in future videos. Well, this has been Big Blast 99, and I hope you all have yourselves a goddamn good one.